on location to talk about UFO hotspots in Japan. Most folks may not know this, but Japan is one of the biggest locations in the world for UFO phenomena. It started really after like the 1940s and 1950s. During the time of 1970 to 1977 or so, there was close to 100 UFO organizations in Japan, and they propped up because basically there was so much phenomena that all these groups decided to go out and start investigating what was going on. So being here in Japan, I chose with Alien Leaks to do a little bit of investigation on what's really going on. And I'm lucky because I live in Hokkaido, and Hokkaido is the biggest hotspot for UFO phenomena in all of Japan. Now, give you a little bit of the history of what went on here. So in the 1950s, there's a couple locations in southern Hokkaido near Hakodate where people started seeing like lights in the sky. One of the fishermen, for example, would they be able to see the lights like at night between 5 and 9 o'clock every single night, and it was kind of crazy. So these folks, started writing about this stuff, and people from Tokyo started coming up to see what was going on. One of the groups, called the Cosmic Brotherhood Association, got involved with the local Ainu. Now, the Ainu, for folks who don't know, is the native Japanese population. They are in mostly northern Japan, and they don't really look exactly like the Japanese. I mean, they're Asian looking, but they're lighter skin. They're very hairy, and the language is a language quite fascinating. Almost no language in the world comes close to how the Ainu used to speak. Now, they've mostly assimilated into Japanese culture, but in studying some of this culture, it's quite interesting. There was a location where the Ainu believed that a god came down and brought down the first Ainu. But that gentleman was actually, they considered an Ainu god. It was a god-human kind of like hybrid that lived in Japan and helped bring up the Ainu. Now, this is part of the fables and the theology, of the Ainu religion. But what ended up happening was kind of weird. There's a location in southern Hokkaido where this Cosmic Brotherhood, which came together around like the 1950s, and around 1960s, they got together and they decided to create a park because the main person was an aviation journalist. That gentleman, Mr. Matsumura, said that he was getting contact by aliens through telepathy. Now, I know this is going to sound crazy, so my partner from Alien Leaks, Ron Watkins, and I decided to start checking this stuff out in southern Japan. Now, what they did in the 1960s was they created this thing called the Hayopira. The Hayopira looks kind of like a Mayan temple. It's had a big pyramid on the top, steps going up, and they took some of the folklore from the Ainu and threw it into this park. There's a statue of the Ainu god pointing up in the sky to a UFO. We're going to show a lot of this information later on in the video. This was an on-site investigation, and I was really excited. I couldn't believe the stuff we saw. One of the things we saw is they had a UFO, statue, and then there's a whole bunch of temples to the various gods. One of the other things that I found fascinating is that they think that the Ainu, this Ainu god, was Genghis Khan. Now, I don't know if I got the understanding wrong, but Mr. Watkins and I went down and looked at some other locations, and there was a sign that had an explanation of Genghis Khan. Like, how could Genghis Khan be in Hokkaido? It makes no sense at all. But their fable and their story is that Genghis Khan somehow, I think maybe they think he was the human alien god that came down like in his chariot. And they talk about the father like being like the father of a storm, and there was like a flash and sound and a fire, like burning bush. I mean, this is almost like religious. I don't know, where the truth and where the fable and all this stuff is mixed together. But in any case, they think that Genghis Khan was somehow related to the Ainu, and that he got into a chariot and went to China. And then from there, I mean, history talks about, what he did later on. So one of the things that I found really interesting was we decided to go up to this old kind of mountain area. It's in the middle of nowhere. I think the town's called something like Biratori or something like that. It's in southern Hokkaido. And we got there, and within like 2 minutes, a government car came up, and I was already trying to do some drone videos, and Ron got stuck talking to a bunch of Japanese, like, I don't know if they were police or government workers. They had a government car, and they just kept telling us to get out of there, and that there were snakes, and and we had to leave, and that was like a sealed off location. So we decided about a week or two later, I looked at the snake report, and it said there was low amounts of snakes, so me and Ron decided to go up again, and I brought my drone. Drones are pretty impervious to snakes. So we got a whole bunch of pictures of this location. I just want to make a point. Anybody who's thinking of going to this location called the Hayopira Park, it's kind of like dangerous. Forget the snakes. There's like rocks falling down. The statues are falling down. It's just, I don't recommend going there, but we were able to get some great footage. And in the surrounding area, we were able to also do some drone footage. And I could have sworn I saw like a little weird flash of light in the drone footage. Now we slowed it down and looked at it. Could just be light on the lens of the drone, but it looked kind of weird. I mean, maybe we got some UFO, but I don't think it's any groundbreaking UFO footage. We continued on in this location, looking at the old pyramid, and Ron found like a statue of this guy. I guess it's a Buddhist temple or some kind of temple there. We took pictures of that. We'll talk more about that, in the show, about what we discover on that. We'll put all the pictures and the analysis online. We also decided, rather than just reading about all this stuff, we went into town and we met with some of the local Ainu. And I met a woman who was involved in some Ainu dancing and some film that was going on. And I asked a whole bunch of people there. There was a group of people, and I said, does anybody know about UFOs out here? And a woman said, yeah, I heard about this pyramid, and she knew about it. And basically, she agreed to get on camera. Now, that experience blew my mind, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, on the show.